Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We have bellied up on the first day of November, and depending upon where you live, I'm not a weatherman, but I can tell you right now, we went from 70s and 80s like 3 days ago here in the New York area where I'm at to it was snowing this morning. So it has been absolutely ridiculous, and that causes stress. And because that causes stress, we needed someone here to help manage our stress. We brought with us the professor of poppy seeds, the professor of peat moss. Well, we'll just call him who it is. We got with us Professor Pete Alexander.
Sean, thank you so much for having me.
You like how that?
I love that. I love that. And thanks so much for having me on your great show and for your listeners' time as well.
Absolutely, brother. Well, look, I mean, it's a beautiful background you got there. I mean,
thank you very much.
We got to talking about sports and
Yep.
Deion Sanders' career, and Pete is a disappointed man because he's a LA. Are you in Oakland?
No, I spent most of my life in the Oakland area, but
no, you're in Cali.
No, I was. Now I'm in Washington State.
Okay. I want to go to Washington State. I want to go to the Puget Sound.
There you go. And I'm actually a 10-minute walk from the Sound.
Really? See, so being from Baltimore, I love good seafood. I love that food scene. And I'm not like well versed on West Coast seafood.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think I think you guys do it a different way. Like we steam everything, steam or broil in Maryland, where I grew up at, and I think you guys do it a little bit different. So I got to get out there.
Yeah,
but I'm all about it. But before we get going too far here, folks, let's go ahead and get some house cleaning done. I think we're gonna have fun. Professor Pete and I have already started to bond here over sports and disappointment because I'm an O's fan, but this year wasn't disappointing for us. It took a lot to get there. But real quick here, folks, as always, over my right shoulder, we got the big board for Sticker and a Cause. Maybe you've got your own podcast, a sports team that you're supporting, local softball team. I don't care what it is, podcast. Reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Even our email is the above the bar podcast at gmail.com. Let me know what it is. I'll tell you where to send this sticker to. We'll read about it live on the air, put it up here on the big board for everybody to see. So again, folks, that Sticker and a Cause. Now, you out there in Washington State and you're close to the Puget Sound or Puget Sound. Like you need to change the name of that maybe. But out there by the Sound, you guys, you get cold. You get rainy. So one of the things you might need our sponsor, and that's Budget Blinds of East Greenbush and Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York. As a company, Budget Blinds have been around for 30 years. And for Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York, and Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, New York, they're running their pre-Black Friday sale. So if you schedule your appointment between today and November 24th, they're going to give you, they call it their triple 50 sale. They're going to give you 50% off of one window, 50% off of installation, and 50% off of shipping as a pre-Black Friday sale. So that means, folks, if you've got that big, giant 108-inch picture window that looks over a lake and you're looking to motorize that thing, you know it's going to be costly. Reach out to Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York, and get that thing taken care of because it's 50% off of one window, 50% off of installation, and 50% off of shipping. You can't beat that kind of a deal. All right, Professor Pete, what do you prefer? Is it Professor Pete? Is it Pete? Is it PA?
It's most people call me Professor Pete.
All right, I like,
but I don't go for PP.
I'll go for PP. We ain't gonna call you PP. Hey there, PP. What you doing, PP? But so we got Professor Pete on today, folks, because like I said, we're talking about stress and stressors, and I'm gonna probably get him to talk a little bit about green business because he's got a little bit of a green thumb. We planted, just an FYI, think we worked it out somewhere between 180 and 200 bulbs of garlic last Sunday.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
I plant a lot of garlic.
Well, I love garlic, so you and I both. So
You have a brand preference or a strain? I don't know what the right term would be.
the I don't know what the strains are, but I do know that I'll put it in pretty much everything unless I've got to go, let's say do a presentation or something where my breath is going to be scaring the vampires away.
Well, I'm gonna give you a recommendation because you guys well, I at least know Seattle and Albany, where I'm at, are on the same parallel.
Hmm.
So we
Yes,
actually get more rain than you guys do. We just don't get the gray clouds blowing off the Pacific.
correct. And you guys get more snow as well.
Yes, we definitely get a lot of snow. It was snowing this morning. But I'll recommend a you got I'm assuming is Marcello one of your somebody you know? Team Live? Hashtag Team Live?
Mm-mm.
From Atlanta? Hey, from Atlanta. Listen, Marcello, let me tell you right now, you're the best hidden food city in the world.
Yeah, it's
Is
good.
Atlanta. I just found out my favorite pizza place. I told you food is a thing for me. I'm sorry. We're gonna talk about
You're making me hungry because I'm at 5 o'clock right now, or
Oh, okay.
5:06.
Well, let me tell you, you could probably catch a red eye to Atlanta, and there's a pizza place there called Antico Pizza.
In the airport?
No,
Okay.
it's in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that actually, but there's a Varsity in the airport, and if you've never had Varsity, you gotta have Varsity.
Hmm.
But in Atlanta, this this pizza place was they didn't get a Michelin star, but they got a Michelin mention as a pizza shop.
Really? Wow.
It's that good. It is every bit that good. And the last time I had it was 2014. They're still around and they're still that good. Absolutely amazing pizza.
Okay, so I gotta plug my youngest son's
Come on.
place that he works for, an employee owned one actually in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it is pizza to die for. Those of you that love Chicago stuffed pizza, imagine Chicago stuffed pizza using all fresh ingredients instead of the canned ingredients that a lot of the Chicago pizzas use. And it's called Zachary's Pizza, and it's been around since I was in college. So that's back in the Stone Age of the early 80s. So
And that's down in
it's
the Bay, you said that's in the Bay Area?
Bay Area. Yep, they've got what is it, five, 6 locations.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, so
Yeah,
garlic wise, my recommendation for you is to go get you some garlic called Music.
music garlic.
Music, just
Okay,
like it sounds. It's
all
a
right.
it's a Canadian hardneck. Um, and it's got like purple veiny. It is
Mhm.
absolutely the most it tastes for as stupid as this is gonna sound, it tastes like garlic. You get a little bit of that raw garlic bite, but you doesn't don't get a heavy burn,
Oh, interesting.
but you get the bite, and it's when you grow it fresh, it's super sticky,
Ooh,
super sticky. I love it. It's like
all
that
right.
sticky icky. It's that sticky icky, but not the sticky icky, you know what I'm saying? It's that other
I
sticky
do.
icky. It's
I
not
do.
that sticky icky, it's the other sticky icky. But so Professor Pete, let's start right here. You're a professor of what?
Marketing.
Okay.
Yep.
So how
So
long
I've
have you been in that world?
Oh, wow. I started in 1999 actually before I even had my PhD. What I was running a digital marketing company, and I decided, hey, you know what? I'm seeing some colleges that are offering classes, at night for working professionals. And I thought, what better place to expose the agency than to those that are trying to figure it out, especially back then during the wild, wild west of the web, and started teaching it and realized I really enjoy to have fun. At the reviews I was getting from my students were outstanding, and so I decided to get my PhD and then continue to do basically, they call it adjunct, part-time professorship since that time. So it's now getting on, was that nine? So first class was 1999. I was doing a hybrid for UC Berkeley. So I've been doing it now for different colleges, pretty much on and off since then. So 24 years. So
Wow.
I'm currently I work for a university called Antioch University that has several campuses throughout the country.
I was about to say, I think I've heard of Antioch.
Hmm, hmm.
I feel like they're on the military installations or
Yes, yes.
that.
Well, they're not on the campus, but they do target military to help them
Okay,
in
maybe
certain.
that's where I
So,
heard it.
hmm,
So you you were got into marketing, got your PhD in marketing,
hmm.
but then you also have the and I'm gonna jack this up. So you fix me as I need to be fixed there,
Okay.
Professor Pete, because I will jack things up. You also have uh your other business, which why am I it's I keep wanting to just in my head green thumb, but I can't remember it's the indoor plant thing. Say the right name for me because I don't know why it's not dawning on me.
Office Plants by Everything Grows, basically
That's it, everything grows.
officeplants.com. Yeah. So
So did that come before or after the marketing piece?
So it came after. What happened was I was working for the second company in a row that got bought by its main competitor. And
Oh,
I
well,
decided I want to have a little bit more control over my future. And so what I ended up happening was I started looking for a business. And I didn't want the typical like retail or restaurant business where you're just going to be working so many hours and you're dependent on foot traffic basically. And so I found this that targeted businesses only, not homes. So it's only B2B, and for the most part, it's Monday through Friday, and it worked out really well. And my first year that I owned it, I bought a struggling business that was losing customers, and I was able to turn it around back in 2005 is when I bought it. It took a year to turn it around, and that first year, I thought I made the biggest mistake because I thought, what the heck have I done? It's just this is aggravating. I'm making no money. I'm losing money, etc. And then finally, it turned the corner, and it's been a really, really fun experience over the last now, let's see, it's been 18 years. And so what's really great about it is that we built it up, me and my business partner. I brought a business partner in back in 2008, and we turned it around. And what we were able to do is during the recession of 2008, we were the only plant interior landscaper who was growing during that time because we know from the suppliers, they told us that. And then when COVID hit in March of 2020, we actually, in 1 month's time, we lost 60% of our business. 1 month. So basically, all of our growth from 2014 through 2019 disappeared in 30 days. And we didn't know whether or not we were going to survive, et cetera. But we finally got back to 2019 numbers at the end of last year. And I just, totally give all of our employees the credit for that. We were able to rebound, and now the business is stronger than ever.
that's amazing. And the reason I'm asking these questions is, a lot of people like I'm a firm believer in those who can do, those who can't teach.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
there's that's a real thing. But when you can find somebody who has done both, somebody who can talk to you about marketing and say, "Hey, I took a business that was currently a soup sandwich and in a year turned it into something profitable." I'm gonna tell me if I'm wrong. How much of that was in the marketing piece?
Oh, tons, tons. When I acquired the business, they didn't have a website. They were, believe it or not, for those younger, we're going to have to tell what this is. But believe it or not, the majority of the marketing that the business was doing when I bought it in 2005, are you ready for this? It was a yellow page ad.
Wow. Wow. Even in 2005, that's a wow. Because we were online at that point.
Well, we were
We were
way online, and the yellow pages wasn't working back then because I always thought about it too. When that yellow page was dropped on my driveway, and I'm going, what the heck is this thing? It's, well, okay. I guess it helps to package stuff up
Yeah,
because
I guess. Wow.
but it was so expensive too. I couldn't believe it. They were charging, and we're not talking about a big ad. Um, Oh, and there's somebody who says pizza's a great stress reliever, and I have a comment for that.
Okay.
Absolutely, Nathan. But it was a crazy how much money those ads for just like a bold name thing, not even a big ad, cost. It was several $100s to get in that annual book. It was ridiculous. So
That's right.
um yeah, there were different things, and so the marketing was what we did, and went out and met with customers, started doing a lot more quality control, and turned it around. So but so Nathan, um pizza is a wonderful stress reliever. I 100% agree. And it reminds me of one of my favorite all-time jokes as well.
Okay, go with it.
So Nathan and anyone else listening, do you know what pizza and sex have in common?
Even when they're bad, they're still good.
Oh, that's pretty close. That's pretty close. When they're good, they're really, really good. But when they're bad, they're still pretty good.
I love it. But and my buddy George, I'm gonna make you a deal. Don't let me forget it. They're all in the ground, and any of the leftover bulbs we're drying out right now for garlic powder.
Mm.
Remind me next year, and I will send you one of the bulbs, and you can plant your own.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and we will take a. But George, I need a. You have to find somebody back in Tennessee to send me ramps, so that's a fair trade. But so, and the reason I talk about all these things, and I really believe in this. A lot of people will say, "Oh, well, I watched this guy talk about marketing, or I talked to
Mhm,
this person about stress relief," but they're not actually involved in it. And I
mhm,
think really, the biggest thing I wanted to talk to you about today, Professor Pete, was being a business owner, owning your own business. There's a lot of different stresses in the world. And look, I got it. Billy threw his car, and Susie got a knot in her hair, or whatever the different stuff is. But when you're a business owner, marketing and stresses are very, very different
mhm,
than other people's. And I would tell this to people all the time. Don't go to your local don't go to your psychologist or psychiatrist, or always get the PhD thing backwards. Don't I hate to say this, folks, don't go to them if you're a business owner and you're looking for stress relief. Don't do it.
mhm,
Go find another business owner, somebody that's ran a business who can talk to you about it. Because I can tell you what my number one stress reliever is: making money.
mhm, mhm,
Nothing relieves my stress better.
mhm,
Uh, and marketing, I, I'm a big fan of marketing. Pete, we'll talk about it afterwards. Well, I'll tell you, I spend a lot of money on marketing,
mhm, mhm.
and I believe in marketing because marketing to me, correct me if I'm wrong, when everybody else is sucking and all the businesses around you are failing, what are you supposed to do?
You're supposed to ramp up your marketing because they're cutting back. Yeah, anytime that like, let's say, all the economists are saying we're heading for another recession. And so that's like what we do. We say, okay, we're not going to minimize our marketing, because the fact of the matter is the marketing becomes more affordable because there's less competition for it. And the key with marketing, what I always believe in, is whatever you're marketing, whatever your messaging is to the appropriate audience, just make sure that whatever you're messaging, you back up. Because the worst thing that you can do is when you're branding yourself, and you're branding yourself with a particular audience, and then their direct experience with your company or your brand is a negative, then that means that whatever you were promising, a great brand is a promise delivered, basically. And so just make sure that you don't overpromise. I've throughout my career, I have been a huge proponent of under promise and over deliver, because whenever somebody overpromises and they can't deliver, then guess what? You've just disappointed the customer, or you've
100%.
disappointed whoever your manager, etc. So always, I'm a big believer in sandbagging, because it's way better to seriously, it's
I
way better.
I thought that was just in the Marine Corps we used that term. That's so great to hear you say sandbagging, because normally if somebody was sandbagging, I'd be like, "Dude, I'm gonna whoop your ass. You're sandbagging right now." That's great. That's
It's true, because why, I would far more rather have a conversation about why I, you know basically undersold what I thought I was going to do, than explain why I didn't hit whatever the number was.
You know what? I in my business, one of the things, because I have to, all my products are custom.
Hmm.
So people are like, "Well, how long until I get this?" It's going to be 3 to 5 weeks.
Hmm.
And I use that as a gauge, because I'm like, if it shows up in 2, great. If it shows up in 4, nobody's upset. If it took longer than that, you knew that, hey, there's a possibility that it could take longer
Yep.
and nobody gets upset about it. So I
Yep.
understand exactly what you mean.
Yep.
But you took all these things and your marketing background, again, building a business. And folks, if you want to know what Professor Pete's got going on, real quick, scrolling on the bottom of the screen, you can see it. It's PeteAlexander.com,
Hmm.
PET Alexander, just like it sounds.com. Uh, you've got to see what he's got going on. We're going to talk about something towards the back end that I want to hear from him. George just said, so coming from a lean Six Sigma training, how did you evaluate where the waste was and what you changed to make the difference to gain success?
For when I bought the plant business, I'm
Well, plant
assuming.
business or in general, I mean, as a
Okay.
teacher, and a marketing specialist,
Hmm.
I know that's one of the things for me. And George, that's a great question. I just went over all my marketing and I had to dig through some data to go, hey, this streaming TV service, it's a great idea, but my customer base is 55 to 60 years and older.
Hmm.
The chances of them they watch streaming TV, but the chances that they're going to watch something with commercials where my ad's going to come up is kind of slim to none. They're going to spend the extra couple dollars. If you can buy what I'm selling, you're spending a couple extra dollars to not watch commercials.
Hmm. Right. And so I would say there's two questions that are probably my favorite, both for you, George, and also Sean, that I would highly, highly recommend anyone consider. The first one is, what you want to do is ask every one of your customers, how did you find out about us? Because they're going to tell you what marketing is working. So, was it a commercial? Was it an ad? Was it a person who referred you? Because word of mouth, I did my PhD on word of mouth. Word of mouth is by far and away the most powerful form of marketing you can have, because the person who refers that customer to you has done all the selling for you. You just have to close them. That's it, literally. Because if you think about it, when you see an ad, okay, it's an ad. Somebody has paid, a company has paid to be in front of you for that ad, or, whatever it is, whatever media channel, whether it's social media, TV, you know, print. And so that's, glad that answers for you, George, on that one. The other key question that you want to ask your existing customers, and we do this every year, we do an annual survey, which we actually offer, because we for all of our customers who fill it out, we say, would you like us to send you a Starbucks uh, coffee card or an Amazon card? It's worth it to get this information back from them. But it's called the ultimate question. The ultimate question is basically, how likely, and this is on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer our company to your peers?
Super.
That So it's called the ultimate question. There's a book on this, actually a couple books, and the research behind that question shows that those companies that score 8 or higher on average with that question are the most profitable businesses in their market. And
I
that's because
wow.
it's, yeah, because you want to know. And so what we do is we ask our customers that question every year. And what's wonderful is we're scoring 8 or above. But what also happens is that if a customer says, well, something happened, if it hit a 7 or a 6, they let us know something. Guess what? We can actually respond to it now. And we can keep that customer, because the other thing to keep in mind, George and Sean, if you've experienced this as
Yeah.
well, as a marketing professor, I know this very well as it being an entrepreneur, that it costs 4 to 5 times more money to generate a new customer than it is to keep an existing customer. So do everything you can, as long as that's a good customer. Obviously, I don't know, George, if you've had to experience this, or Sean, if you've ever had to experience this, sometimes you have to fire a customer.
I'm in
And
process of that right now.
okay, so yes, so that, and it's a hard thing to do, because it's like, no, 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 you want to keep your customers, but every now and then, in my experience, we've had customers that just don't fit. They have their expectation is off the charts, and it was never on the same level as us, or whatever it happens to be, or they don't want to spend pay the price that's fair to us, or whatever it happens to be. So, but for the vast majority of customers, if you can do the little things to keep them happy, it's going to pay off in droves for you, versus spending money to try and generate a new customer. Because going back to it, we have to convince that new customer, and that costs money. And the most cost effective way of doing that is word of mouth, but it's not a broad based kind of a thing, word of mouth, unless it's on a negative, because that's where you have to be very careful. Because with social media, if somebody has a really bad experience with your company or your service or your product, they're one review away from being very difficult.
And you know what? It's funny you talk about those things. One of my favorite things to do is when I'm not willing to do business with somebody is make it their idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I had a gentleman just recently, great guy, super nice. In my business, I take 100% of payment up front.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I only want to give you 25%. I said, that's not going to happen. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't say it that way. I was like, "Yeah, well, I appreciate that if that makes you comfortable." And I did. I read. You may have read this book, Never Split the Difference.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I went, How could I operate like that? Well, yeah, yeah. Well, I understand. I was like, I'll make you this deal. I can do 80%. Oh no, I got burned. This, that, and the other. Okay, look, man. Go call this company. Go call that company. Go do all your research and call me back.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be here. I'm not chasing you. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what the best part about that is? And I would love to hear, because I will tell you, and it goes right into the stress relieving side to this, because I want to know what some of the ways that you feel to deal with that are. Because the other side to it is I have a thing in my head that goes, you got to win, you got to close them all, you got to get
Mm-hmm.
everything closed. Years of recruiting for the Marine Corps was close them down.
Mm-hmm.
I got to close everything. You never know
Mm-hmm.
when the next one's gonna show up. But in this world, I almost feel like if that guy wouldn't go back and be like, "Do you know what? We couldn't come to an agreement because he wanted this, but you know what? Damn it, that guy was a nice guy and he was a good dude."
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the other side that is, oh, George got a question here. I asked the way I asked because I'm looking to start a business, and a big question I had was, is it worth keeping the one or marketing more? George, let me tell you right now, and this is the best, and I'm going to answer this, and Professor Pete, I need your response on this before we go into stress relief, and I want to know what the heck what is the yoga term
Oh, laughter yoga.
laughter yoga. I gotta know what that is. It just makes you laugh hearing it. Here's the best thing I would tell you, George. If you think the money is the business is profitable, and George, I think we talked about it. I own a franchise. If you think the business is profitable, if you're not spending in your first year 10% of what you think you need to be making, not what you are making, what you need to be making on marketing, you're wrong.
Mhm.
And it's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand. that if, hey, I need to be making 100,000, I need to spend 10,000, but I'm only making 60. Now I'm spending actually more than that. I promise you, I promise you in my business, I've watched since I started in May, I've stayed on the same marketing path. And every single month, uh, save that one, say that one. Okay, I'll say it one more time, George. Uh, but I've watched my business go to more every time. Here's what I'm going to say, George. And Professor Pete, correct me if I'm wrong. You need to spend on marketing, not what you are, not 10% of what you are making, 10% of what you want to make on marketing. Meaning, if you're want to make $100,000, you need to spend in your first year. The first year is the most critical.
Mhm.
You need to spend 10,000 $10,000 a month on marketing. If you want to make 100,000 a month. If you want to make 200,000 a month, well, you're going to have to spend 20,000.
Yeah.
If you're only making the toughest part that we all run into, George, is if you're only currently that business is making 60,000 a month, and now you're going to spend 10,000 on marketing. It's hard to get our head. That's that stressor. It's hard to get our head wrapped like, but I've still got to pay all these other bills.
Mhm.
I promise you, spend that money on marketing. That should be your number one expense behind employees.
Yeah, and what I would add to that, Sean, for George, you want to be able to understand that marketing is an investment. You are investing in the business. You are setting your brand up. It takes a while to get that brand there. The other critical thing to do is if you're spending, let's say, $10,000 a month, you want to make sure you're spending it wisely. So, going back to when I bought my interior landscaping business, spending, what was it? It was several $100s on a Yellow Pages ad that we did never got one call, not one call. So, and starting from scratch, yes. So you should go ahead and set a goal out. One of the things that you always want to be doing is even a one-page business plan on what you want to accomplish with your business, and that includes how much you want to make in that first year. So first month, first quarter, first year, and you need to start ramping up. So clearly you need to have some money set aside to be able to ramp up your business. So whatever it is that you set out to be in terms of what income you want to make from that business, you have to do 10% and look at it as an investment. And the other thing that I'd highly recommend as an entrepreneur to you is remember that there's certain expenses that are more important than others. And one of
What do
them,
you mean?
well, employees, you know, employees get paid before vendors get paid. Employees get paid before the light, the electrical, it's just that's the kind of thing when if your money is stretched, you make sure that the employees come first with their payroll. So that's
Why is
that's
that so hard for businesses to understand that pay your employees right away
mhm,
before you worry about, hey, did my vendors get their money? Did this one get their money? Just pay your employees. Why is that so
absolutely.
hard for people to understand?
I don't know. I think because most of the business owners that I've worked with, they look at employees as an expense. And for us, we look at the employees as an asset.
So George is in a huge baseball community and
Uh-huh.
wants to open a batting facility with a local baseball player slash training business.
Okay.
So super simple, George. And Professor Pete, I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, I'm loving this one. I've got a
This
few
is
ideas right off the bat for that.
same. So I'm gonna hold on to my ideas because my first thing is what other ones are around you and shop your competition. That's the first thing I did
Yep.
was shop your competition. Go in there and be
Hmm.
like, hey, my 10-year-old's looking to play baseball.
Hmm.
How much is it? What if I want to come in and bat around? So that's the first thing I do. If you want to know what your first marketing thing is shop your competition.
and
Fuck
your
them, they ain't your friend.
right, and your competition may not just be other baseball like batting cages. It might actually be other activities that
Oh, there you go.
kids are looking for. So because you remember, you know, uh, parents have typically a limited dollar amount to spend on their kids in terms of their extracurricular activities. I'm a parent of three. And so, you have to figure out what is it that the kids want to do. But um, what is it that on average, what is some of the other activities, whether it's soccer camp, which was huge where my kids went, and neither one of them ever played soccer. They couldn't stand it. But that was a big money one. Football, of course, baseball, basketball, whatever, those are the things, those are competition for you as well. But if there isn't a batting cage per se competition in figure a I would say in a 15-mile radius, that's probably where your competition is going to, the most competition is going to be 15 miles, or figure, depending on what kind of traffic it is where you're living. A parent does not want to drive more than 30 minutes to take their kids somewhere. So is that 15 miles? Is that, with stoplights and everything? Is that 20 miles? Whatever it is, that's your radius. The other thing, when you're looking at that to open it with a local baseball player, is make sure that that baseball player has a real positive public persona. So look at their social media, because if they're posting some stuff that may be considered more inappropriate, parents are not going to really be excited about that. So you have to be careful about that too before you get somebody. But having a celebrity, it's going to cost more. However, you have the opportunity too to make them a business partner. And if they've saved some money from their professional career, great. They have some money to invest in it.
And George, if you're gonna be the only game in town, that's awesome. But here's what yeah, New Jersey Hall of Fame player.
Oh, sweet.
I I mean, even better. What I would tell you then, knowing that, and tell me what you think here, Professor Pete. The minute your business is successful, imitation is not always the greatest form of flattery.
Yep.
The minute
Yep.
your business is successful, somebody's gonna say, "Well, George is an idiot. I can do better than he can."
Mhm.
And they're gonna try to copy what you do, and they're gonna figure out what you do.
Yep.
So, again, your marketing piece has to be I think about, some of these what's the one I heard? It was the hamburger one. So, God, what the hell is his I can't think of the guy's name. He's one of the guy who started the, actual McDonald's franchises.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Not well. I saw the movie.
Right, they did a movie about it,
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Michael Keaton was the lead in that. I forgot.
and they talked he met with a bunch of business, college business master's
Yep.
degree, blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
and he asked them all, "What business am I in?" And they said, "Hamburgers." He
Hmm.
said, "Nope." He said they were like, "What? Restaurant?" And he was like, "No." And he let them all say it. And when he came down to it, he said, "I'm in the business of land ownership." And they were like,
Hmm.
"What?" He goes, "Yes. The land that McDonald's sits on is more valuable than the restaurants. If you think about the corners they're on some of the most valuable corners of
Hmm.
property in the entire
Hmm.
world."
Hmm.
Not long ago, they actually surpassed the Catholic Church as owning more property than the Catholic Church. Think about that.
I'm surprised it was just recently. I would have
Well,
thought that
I
that
say
would have
recently
happened.
within 15, 20 years,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
when
Yep.
you put in the grand scheme of the Catholic Church and
Yep.
McDonald's. But the reason I say that, George, is yes, you're gonna run a successful business. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to George, capitalize the conversation. Have fun with this. This is why we
Yeah.
do this. This is the best part.
Are you kidding? This is fun.
But what I'm saying is don't just be in the business of training kids to be baseball players. A high school coach does that. A T-ball coach does that. Figure out what you can be in the business of that feeds into that becomes your marketing piece. So, hey, we teach young people baseball, blah, 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 blah. Oh, but by the way, what you don't realize is they're also teaching moral value. You know,
Mhm,
if that's
mhm.
where you're at, whatever it happens to be. What's your thoughts on trying to find that underlying in your marketing like that, Professor Pete?
Yeah, to me, I would think too, George, that one of the ways that I might market it is selling the dream of making it to the major leagues, selling the dream, and that is a powerful, powerful thing. Another thing that to Sean's point is if you make this a really successful business, you have just lined yourself up to potentially expand, whether you want to keep it as business owned or you franchise it out. Because
Amen.
that, I mean, and you can, there's certain parameters depending on the states. But yeah, I mean, but selling the dream, because how many kids dream about being in the major leagues or in the NFL or in the NBA or the NHL? That's, I mean, but the percentage of them is so small. But there, if the kids that are willing to put the effort in, you know, what happens if they make it? And all it takes, you've got, if you've got a Hall of Famer that can put his name on it, and then you get one player who went to your facility and makes it even for, as they call it, a cup of coffee in the majors, boom. I mean,
So you have to explain this one to me, George. So he says this place is nuts with baseball. I don't want to teach, so to speak, other other that just providing a facility close to where we live, they can bring their kids. So
mhm,
you're not looking to, so you can do that. You can have a nice, clean, safe facility where people can bring their kids, and whoever this baseball guy is, then you rent space to him where he can have training in there
mhm,
that on these days. So you run the facility, you own the facility, you own the building, you own the property that it's
mhm,
on because that's your
mhm,
real money, whether you
mhm,
believe that or not. But you then rent the space to these, and then you find, so that becomes my 6-year-old wrestles. He loves to wrestle, and I'm not talking WWE, like high school collegiate wrestling. The guy who owns the facility, phenomenal dude named Joe. Well, Joe is connected with all the high schools and
mhm,
elementary schools and middle schools throughout the entire capital region of New York. They all bring their kids there. And then coming up in the next couple of weeks, it'll be all the smaller kids will start to come in, and he's training these smaller kids. He cuts us a good deal. It's like, 150 a month to wrestle 2 times a week. And he provides the facilities and the training, but all the schools are connected.
mhm.
Every kid. That's what he where he's made his, oh, so makes so Nate, I'll get to yours in a minute. Professor Pete, we're 43 minutes into this. We haven't even gotten into the yoga piece. We're George, I love that you asked this question because this is something I'm very passionate about is marketing. I believe. Now, let me ask this before we change gears. And I have my answer to this. Do you believe legacy marketing is dead?
No, no. Mm-mm. No, because there's certain, okay,
Thank
so and I'll give you a perfect example of that. When I say, what is the most reliable dishwasher? What brand do you think of,
Maytag.
Sean? Okay,
Maytag.
exactly, because they spent, the lonely Maytag repairman. Here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. In the last two houses that I have owned, I've had to have my dishwasher replaced. Okay. Or one repaired, one replaced. And I asked both repair guys, independent guys. I said, so, what's the lousiest uh, dishwashers that they experience? Both guys said Maytag. But the brand remains.
Yeah.
So, because there's been so much money put into it. So it's not dead. In fact, I saw somebody walking around with a Kodak plastic bag. And I was thinking to myself, wow, when's the last time that I've actually bought something from Kodak? A long, long time ago. However, Kodak still has a powerful brand.
Oh yeah.
So it's just the money that's put in there is if it's done right. And one of the things that I have taught my students is when I ask them about what are the most what are the top brands, I don't ask them what are the top brands in terms of, oh, what comes to mind. I ask them, what do you think are the top 20 global most valuable brands? Because the valuable brands means that what are those brands mean to the bottom line of the business? And so that is a big difference.
See, if I'm still correct, it used to be Ferrari. It's now Lego, then Ferrari.
So they're neither Ferrari or Lego is even
Really?
in the top 20. Nope.
Really?
Nope.
So that used to be like the biggest thing was like they were the best, most marketed was Lego and
Hmm.
Ferrari.
Hmm. Yeah.
What?
So Lego's in the top 30, but it's not in the top 20. Yeah. So the ones that would that we all know about would be Coca-Cola, of
Mhm.
course, Apple, Microsoft is,
Still
Samsung,
Microsoft. Still
mhm,
Microsoft.
still Microsoft. So
I would
ones that have dropped out that were there many years ago, things like IBM.
yeah,
IBM's not,
Xerox
Big
probably.
Blue, yeah, Xerox, another one that were big ones, let's say 30 years ago. They're not there anymore. So yeah, so there's a lot of value in legacy branding. It really is, but you just have to make sure to utilize it the right way.
So I'm a huge fan. And we're getting close here to the end, and I want to keep going through all your stuff here. And folks, again, if you like what Professor Pete's got going on, PeteAlexander.com, check him out, see what he's got going on. George, I would recommend reach out to Professor Pete. You can find him on LinkedIn under Professor Peter Alexander.
Mhm.
You his hair's a little darker in that picture. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little
What's funny though is that picture was from last week when I did my TEDx.
oh, was it?
Yeah,
You did a TEDx?
last week. Yeah,
And what's the
yeah,
difference
yeah.
between a TED Talk and a TEDx?
So the difference is, so TEDx is part of TED.
Okay.
When TED started back 30 years ago, they only had one conference, and all these people wanted to pitch them on a talk. And so what they decided to do, they wanted to have these ideas shared more broadly. So they made TEDx, and the X stands for expanded. So basically it's independently licensed events throughout not only the country here in the US, but also the world. And so I did a TEDx event in the Salt Lake City area last week. And I've been told it takes roughly 8 to 12 weeks before it gets consideration by TED, because
Okay.
they only have a few people that actually look at these videos. So we'll see.
So, well, let's get into God. Professor Pete, you and I got like 2 or 3 shows that we could be doing right now. Absolutely could do some more because I love marketing. But so you have the stress relief made simple.
Mhm.
What is that?
So that basically is what you see in the book. So lighten your day. And what lighten your day is, lighten is a 7 letter acronym that stands for the 7 areas of our lives that basically stresses us out. So L is for your livelihood, your career. I is your imagination or your conscious mind, which is basically 5% of your brain. But guess what? It's your inner critic. So, and we all have that lovely inner critic. Then the G is your genius, what I like to reference as your unconscious, because your unconscious is actually where the real change happens. That's where your habits are formed. That's where your memories are stored. Your perception of the world is. So that's whenever you're stressed out about something that's really deep core, that's where it needs to change. Then the H is your health, your physical health, because without your physical health, nothing else matters. I always tell that to everyone because if you've, some people say, oh, that's not I'll take care of my health whenever. Well, the reality is everybody can relate to being sick, like with the flu or something at some point. And I ask them and I say, okay, so think back to the last time that you had a really bad flu. Did you feel like doing anything other than lying in bed? They said, probably not. Well, guess what? When all you can do is lie in bed, you're no good to your business, you're no good to your
Right.
friends, family, etc. Take care of your health. The T is time, because we all don't have enough time, and time, once it's gone, you can't get it back. So be very mindful of that. E is your environment, because you want to make sure that you take care of your surroundings, because you don't want your environment stressing you out. So do whatever you can to reduce that stress. And then N is your network of relationships. So the stress relief tips in my book, there's over 120 of them. I ended up writing it after I burnt out, because I wasn't doing anything to relieve my stress. I just kept on type A personality, kept on juggling everything. And I had the landscaping business to run. My dad was dying and he needed his affairs to be taken care of. My mom had to have major surgery and didn't have insurance for physical therapy to help her, so she needed help. My kids were small at that time, wanted my attention, and oh, by the way, my marriage was heading for a divorce. So needless to say,
Did you
lots of
get a
stuff on
sharp
my
stick in the eye
shoulders.
at any point in time, just like somebody
Yeah,
stabbed you right in the eye with a stick?
exactly. So boom, all of a sudden, my body broke down because it was giving me warnings, and that's something that our bodies do. They give us warnings that we need to take care of ourselves. And when we continue to ignore our warning signs, like let's say, early signs might be things like back and shoulder stiffness, because what do? When we're at a desk, we hunch over when we are stressed. So that's back and shoulder stiffness. There's going to be things like we're not getting enough sleep or excessive sleep. We might be getting frequent colds instead of like one cold a year or something. We're getting that. How about digestive disorders where no amount of Pepto Bismol is helping us? Headaches. How about this one? Instead of getting an occasional headache where you reach for the Excedrin bottle, you're getting them every day. Well, guess what? Your body's telling you got those problems. And so, and weight fluctuations as well. That was the one that was the final straw for me, because uh, about 35 days before I was diagnosed with stress induced diabetes, I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. I was in my mid 40s and the
I'm not
weight
hearing
just was
a
coming
problem
off.
right now. I'm not hearing
Well,
this.
okay. So at first it's great, right? And it's serious because I wasn't doing any dieting. I was doing my regular exercise, nothing special. And the weight kept on coming off, and I was eating Oreos and things like
You're
that.
like, this is
And
amazing.
it's like great. And then after the 30th pound came off, I thought, I better check this out. And
This isn't
sure enough,
right.
the blood work came back and said, winner, winner, chicken dinner. You got stress induced diabetes. And classic. So that was in 2008. And classic. Did I listen to my body about what stress was doing to it? No. What ended up happening is I continued to burn the candle at both ends for another 10 years. And then I ended up in the emergency room with a severe case of diabetic ketoacidosis. And for those listening who don't know what that is, basically, my body was eating itself alive because of my stress. And that was the
So your
epiphany
body was
moment.
stress eating.
Stress, it was basically burning itself out. And what ended up happening is my body just kept on raising and raising and raising and raising the warning signal, and finally said, okay, the weakest part of your body, even though diabetes does not run in my family, was my pancreas. And so boom, that's what shut down. And now I'm stuck with this chronic disease for the rest of my life, even though nobody in my family has it. So, you
Wow.
know
I love it. George says, Sean, once you're done, please send me a list of these books. Starting businesses from the scratch terrifies me
mhm.
more than anything the Marine Corps ever asked me to do. Everything he's speaking about right now, I don't know how to balance. George, before I'm going to tell you the very first book. This is my number one recommended book, and then I'll tell you number two before you even start a business. And one of them's one of them's 90 years old and the other one might be 100-year-old books. Start with The Richest Man in Babylon and then go
Mhm,
to Think and Grow Rich. In
mhm,
that order, Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich. Start with those two. Richest Man in
mhm.
Babylon, Think and Grow Rich. Start there before you worry about any other books. What do you think, Professor Pete?
I think those are great ones. Those are foundational books, and they'll give you a great start to getting your mindset in the right place. There's one other thing that I would strongly have you recommend you do. It's not a book, but one thing that you want to do is clarify your top personal values as it relates to your career, because you're going to get there's going to be times as you're building your business, there's going to be times where you have to make these very difficult decisions. And if you have clarity over the, let's say, your top 5 personal values, you can run that decision to make sure it's in alignment with those top 5. Because if they're not, if that decision is not aligned with your personal values, you're automatically adding additional stress. And what I can do, if you reach out to me, I can send you the link to it's basically a 10-minute activity that you do. And those values don't change with the exception maybe one in your lifetime. It's what's important to you. And you have to make sure to keep what's important to you in alignment, because if not, you're not being true to yourself and you're automatically adding stress to your life.
And if you're adding stress to your life, then you need to go get Professor Pete's book. So
Mhm.
you have 120 different ways to deal with that stress.
That's right.
And Nate, I, I always am proud of Nate. He went from
Woo!
50 to 250, and he had
Congratulations,
a-
Nathan. That's awesome.
and most of it was the stress he was dealing with was not being able to pick players during fantasy football season. That was his biggest stressor because he loses all the time. He's not a very good picker. Watch any second, and shut up. That's not true. Like, my show, Nate. I get to be the asshole. But folks, check out what Professor Pete's got going on. PeteAlexander.com. George, Professor Peter Alexander on LinkedIn. You can check him there. His indoor landscaping business. He's got all that information on there. If you're out in the Washington State area, go check that out. Professor Pete, you and I still got like a couple of shows to do here. We didn't even get into the yoga.
Oh, I know, the laughter yoga.
We didn't even get into that. Like, my God, George, thank you for all the amazing questions. Nate, let me get Nate's other question because we'll run over for a minute. Nate wants to know, he called it your Hall of Fame meal, but do you have a meal like this is like your meal? This is the go-to for either a win or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
What I tell you?
There's Nathan.
Oh
Um,
shoot.
so my go-to would easily be a fresh baked sourdough bread bowl with chili inside of it.
With
That
oh my
is,
God. I'm
oh,
broccoli cheddar.
that's
I'm a broccoli cheddar in that.
that's okay. Broccoli cheddar as well.
But
You're,
chili in that sounds there used to be a
oh,
place called Just Potato. Do you remember that chain restaurant called Just
yes.
Potato?
And you could have the chili on the potato. Yeah.
And they would do a broccoli cheddar potato soup.
Mhm, mhm.
That was absolutely amazing.
So
My
that
first when I was in there's my first wife, I got a couple of them in high school. That's where she worked at, and when we were in high school, and she worked at the Just Potato, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
it is. So that would be, that would be if I was given the ultimate food. And George, you're very welcome. Happy to help. Um, that is definitely my go-to. If I have the opportunity, and it has to be a fresh baked, not something you go to the
Yeah.
grocery store and it's rock hard. It has to be fresh baked. That round cut into it. You pour the chili or broccoli cheddar soup or whatever, or
Something.
clam chowder. Clam chowder is a real
Oh, that
popular
would be
one too.
that's a good
So
one.
yeah. Oh, it's awesome because and it just it's ultimate comfort, but I also get plenty of energy from it.
I love a good chili too. Beans or no beans?
Beans. Yeah.
Beans. I'm with you.
Well, okay. I will say this. It depends on what I've got planned the rest of the day. Because if not, it might be a Blazing Saddles kind of a story.
I'm a big Blazing Saddles fan too. Rob, what's good to see you, brother, man. Hopefully all of CDTA in the shop was watching this one. Well, look, folks, I say this every week and I'll say it again. If you're finding me through Professor Pete or Professor Pete through me, make sure you're giving this a like, follow, share, subscribe, all those kind of things. It may sound cliche. Even those of you that are still hanging out with us, go over to whatever app you use, whether it be Apple, Spotify, giving that like or follow, going on to YouTube, giving that like and follow. Again, it sounds cliche, but by you doing that, that's how Professor Pete's message gets out. That's how this show gets more popular. That's how more people know about what we have going on. That little bit of time that it takes you physically a moment to just go click changes things for both of us and gets our word out there and what's happening. Talk about next week's show. George, if you're still out there, Robert, if you're still out there. So next week, if you didn't know it, just get your Facebooks and your memes all together. The Marine Corps birthday is November 10th. It is coming up next week. So your entire Facebook page will be filled with every Marine Corps. And as we do every year, this year it'll be on the 8th. We have all these old fart Marines, 8412s, some guys that just retired, some this past year. So we're all going to get together, tell complete a bunch of lies about me and about shit that we've all done. And mostly they like to lie and say the shit that I was a horrible person. George will tell you I was a horrible person. Did a lot of shit. But we're all going to tell lies. So that's going to be next week's show, folks. So make sure you're joining us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. What George said, I was leaning on no side to the business adventure, but I'm a little more. But George, listen to me. There is nothing short of graduating from boot camp and then retiring that has been more impactful and more important to me than being my own boss. Now, listen. The one thing I heard it before I started, once you own your own company, you get to pick the 70 hours a week you work. But there is nothing more rewarding than owning your own deal and then employing somebody. Listen to me, employing somebody has been just as absolutely powerful to me as owning my own business. Hope he hopes to have you back. We missed a lot. He has to offer, brother. We'll talk about it afterwards, and we'll find a time to have the professor back on. Now, Professor, this is episode like 207 or 28. So I imagine you should probably know better than I do because you've binged every 200 and some episodes. The only thing that you've had in your life over the last week where you were like, I've got to know it all, how they do things. And don't log off after we're done here. You and I got to talk for just a moment. What I need to know from you, the most important thing that we always do on every single episode of this show is, what is your final word?
Oh, I'll tell it to everybody, because this is my legacy. What I want to tell people is, don't trade your health for your career, because it's a very bad trade.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in. This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.